Seedance.
Seedance 2.0 is without a doubt the most dangerous AI tool to have been released so far.
After months of waiting, massive controversy and subsequent delays, Seedance 2 is finally here. In today's video, we'll answer the question everyone wants to know. Is it really as good as creators have been making out, or is this just another case of all hype and no substance? I'm going to show you exactly how the tool works and how to prompt it properly. And we'll put Seedance 2 head to head with Kling 3.0 so you get a really strong point of comparison. And guys, if you do enjoy today's content, make sure to whack a like on there for me, consider subscribing, and of course, ring that bell notification icon. All right, let's get into it. So to access Seedance 2, we're over on Higgsfield, and to use the tool, we just want to go ahead and click into this banner here. Now, currently you can only use Seedance 2 with Higgsfield's business or teams plans, and it's available for all regions besides Japan and the US. Hopefully this changes pretty soon. Using Seedance 2 is going to feel pretty familiar to a lot of other video models on Higgsfield. You've got this section at the top here where we can upload media. But the difference here is this isn't as simple as just uploading a start or end frame. We can upload images, videos, and even audio, all to act as part of our generation. And when we're writing our prompts, if we hit the @ key, we get this drop down menu where we can select from one of those image, video, or audio references that we've uploaded. In terms of the model selection, we also have Seedance 2.0 Fast, which does exactly what you'd expect. Quicker generations at a lower cost, but with less impressive results. We can also select the duration, the aspect ratio, and the resolution as well. And you'll immediately notice here that one of the drawbacks with this model is that we top out at 720p resolution, which is pretty low by today's standards. However, the generations you're able to get from Seedance 2 are equally unlike anything else on the market, so it's a trade-off that may well be worth it. So what I want to go ahead and do in this video is recreate some of the generations you guys would have seen in the intro. And then we'll also go ahead and compare these generations to Kling 3.0. This is arguably the best AI video model on the market, but has Seedance 2 come along and stolen its crown? We'll find out. So what we want to go ahead and do for our first example is I'm going to select this first image of me stood on a rooftop, just looking like I'm wearing normal clothes. And then the second image is me suited up as some type of superhero. Now, I'm not going to go through and read out the entire text prompt because it is a little bit lengthy, but you will find all of my prompts down below in the description. You guys want to go ahead and use them for your own projects. But you can see that I'm tagging image 1 when I'm describing the fictional bearded man, me, and then image 2 towards the end of the prompt, which is where I'm suited up, to tell Seedance 2 that I want this shot to act as a kind of transition. And me describing myself as a fictional bearded man is me trying to dodge any type of moderation, essentially. This may or may not be necessary for every single video you try to generate. It's just a habit that I've got into because it means that you're more likely to get a generation without it getting blocked, and you'll do less waiting around. You'll get the results you want quicker. And just at the end of the prompt here, we're saying no logos, no text, no subtitles, ensure there is no music or soundtrack, only sound effects. That being said, let's go ahead and click generate. So we have back our first result, and it is really quite impressive, but also quite different to what was used in the intro. One thing that I will say is that the generations are coming through pretty quickly at the minute. on Higgsfield. Maybe that's just because Seedance 2 is restricted to business and teams plans right now, so these servers aren't being overloaded, but it makes a nice change to be able to hit generate on a new model on any platform and get your generation back pretty quickly. Now, the only issue I will say is that we have these kind of like fragments of armor floating around the character. The armor pieces lock in, and then we cut to that close-up, and then the armor pieces lock in once again. So there is that slight lack of continuity, I guess you would call it, but we could just cut to that close-up quicker before they lock in on the wide shot, and the rest of this is looking pretty great. I feel like the background is maybe a little bit lifeless, but the close-ups are really quite impressive. The textural detail for a 720p generation is actually pretty nice. Character consistency is looking really good, and the way that the armor is actually kind of folding in over my head looks really great. Now let's go ahead and compare this to Kling 3. Now this is a start and end frame generation using the exact same prompt, and to be brutally honest, the difference is night and day. There's a lot going wrong with the Kling 3 generation. There's some really nasty artifacting, and the visual effects themselves are just not very dynamic or impressive. I think that close-up at the end is kind of nice, but Seedance 2 definitely takes the win here. And just to give you guys another Kling 3 example, I don't know what is happening in this one. There are so many problems to count, and at the end I'm holding this little microphone. I don't know why that's happening. Yeah, Seedance 2 definitely takes the crown for this one. Next, I want to go ahead and generate an anime style scene. So if we go to our upload media, I can select this particular image here. And for the text prompt, we're asking for an anime style chase scene featuring a fictional bearded man and set in a futuristic city. Let's go ahead and test out this one here. Now I've got a couple of results that I want to share with you guys for this particular generation, because this is quite a brutal test for an AI video model, because we're asking for an aerial stunt to be performed. So there's a lot of physical things that can go wrong. And you can see with our first generation, that's exactly what's happening. The motorbike is kind of going backwards for quite a large amount of the generation. When the stunt happens, it's kind of okay, but it's not particularly dynamic or exciting, to be brutally honest. Now, our next try was a lot more successful, I would say. I really do like the anime style, the kind of rippling of my t-shirt. And whilst that stunt is more impressive in some ways, there's also some faults going on there. The stunt itself doesn't really make a lot of sense, but of course we're testing out multi-shot prompting here, and the reality with AI is that not every shot you're going to get from it is going to work. So it's about picking and choosing for your edits which shots do and don't work. And I found that with Seedance 2.0, if you do a variety of multi-shot prompts using the same prompt and image references, and you can just go in and pick each shot that does work and combine them all together. This is essentially the workflow I used for the intro. You can get some really nice results. And once again, if we go ahead and compare this generation to what we got from Kling 3 using the same prompt and image reference, I actually really like what Kling 3 gave us as well. The issue is just that really nasty like artifacting that always seems to happen when you'd expect to see motion blur of Kling 3. You just get this like really weird sharp tearing. I'll try to pause it on a frame so you guys can see it really clearly. That's a real issue if you're trying to use these generations within like a real world or professional use case. However, the camera angles, the kind of dynamic nature of this generation, there's still a lot to like here. I think Kling 3 has done pretty well. It's held its own, it's respectable. Now let's go ahead and show this Pixar animation style example here. Now, I was actually kind of surprised that this was deemed eligible. I thought maybe I might be skirting on like potential IP restriction here, but no, it got deemed eligible, so we can go ahead and use that. Once again, we've dropped in a fairly lengthy text prompt to have a multi-shot scene where the animated version of me is fighting these frozen monsters. And you can see so far that we're only using 1 or 2 image references for these first generations, so it's a pretty simple workflow right now. just to show you haven't got to go crazy to get some nice results. Let's go ahead and send off this generation 2. So again, we've got a really nice result here. I love the way that the frozen monsters come up out of the ground. That close up with me letting out that icy breath. But then the actual fight scene itself, I don't know, it feels a little bit basic compared to what I managed to generate for the intro. It just doesn't have the same kind of impact or kind of dynamic nature that I got for what I use in the intro. And with the second generation, there's a lot to like here still. The camera angles are great. The camera moves are really cool as well. But then the fight scene here doesn't actually make an awful lot of sense. I don't think I'm actually making contact with any of these frozen monsters, even though the sword design is really nice. I'm kind of just like waving it around and they're just dying for some unknown reason. So I think what I described that we're seeing here with these generations is a little bit of a disconnect in terms of world logic. I'm sure if we ran the same prompt enough times, we would get similar quality to what we had in the intro though. But again, this is the whole point of this exercise, to show you guys it's AI. You're not always going to get what you want on the first, second, third, fourth, maybe even fifth generation, but you can get some really great results from Seedance 2 if you stick with it. Sometimes those results will come faster than others. Now, comparing this to what we got from Kling 3, whilst I do like what Kling has generated here, there's some weird stuff going on, right? I think the design of the frozen beasts is really quite cool. And I'm not really using a sword. It's like this kind of green whip thingy. And again, it's the same problem. Whenever you'd expect motion blur, we get this horrible tearing, and that's a real issue. Keep in mind, guys, if you were to run this through like Topaz to upscale it, it's not going to fix that problem. This is kind of baked in. The only way that I think you could fix this is you'd have to get like a VFX artist or something to go through and kind of manually paint those frames to fake motion blur, essentially. And it's not really what you want from your AI video generations. You don't want to be restricted. Like, you don't want to have to think, I can't make things too exciting because Kling's going to freak out. We don't seem to have this issue with Seedance 2, and the fight scenes that we were getting from Seedance 2 as well, I preferred. They made a little bit more sense, even though they weren't perfect. So yeah, I think Seedance wins on this one also. Now, another of the VFX shots that you would have seen in the intro is me kind of being teleported or sucked into my phone when I click into activate Seedance 2. And this is a cool example for me because I had quite a clear intention of what I wanted, how I kind of expected this visual effects to be generated. And I've had problems in the past with getting an AI video generator to kind of bring my ideas to life exactly as I imagine them. A lot of the time you kind of have to adapt to what you get given, but the generation I got from Seedance 2 was exactly what I imagined. It was perfect. So to recreate this, we'll go ahead and select this image here, which again deemed eligible. So there doesn't seem to be a problem with using people's real human likeness. Obviously, I'm not a celebrity or anything, but we've seen with models in the past like VO that can get blocked, like real human likeness. So not an issue with that here. And then we just have this prompt with a static locked off camera, which describes the visual effect that I'm after. So we can go ahead and hit generate. Now, I don't like this result as much as what I used in the intro, but still there is a lot of cool things happening here. I love that kind of camera wobble when I get sucked into that portal, and also the way that the phone kind of wobbles and flips in the air and then topples down and hits onto the laptop is pretty nice, although there is some kind of wonky physics happening for a couple of moments. And just to show you guys another example, which is quite different, more of like a warpy vibe where I'm very slowly drawn into this portal. I really like the way that the phone kind of hovers in midair and then slowly, gently drops onto the sofa. So yeah, Seedance 2 doing a really good job of bringing these kind of very specific visual effects I had in my head to life. It's giving you variations to pick from, but a lot of them are really nice. A lot of them have a lot going for them. Now, Kling, on the other hand. Kling, I'm not too sure what to say here. It's not looking good. As impressive a model as Kling 3 is, I've ran into this issue a lot. Like I said, I have a very specific vision in my mind for the type of effect that I'm after, and I've had it time and time again that I just can't get Kling to do what I want, and we end up with this really wonky looking shot, let's be honest. And just to show you guys another couple of examples, what I went ahead and did was upload this image reference of me here as a wizard in this kind of haunted swamp. All of these images were generated using either Nano Banana Pro or Nano Banana 2. And again, we're going for a multi-shot prompt. My thinking here, of course, is that if we can get good multi-shot generations, and if you just want single shots, obviously going to work as well. So great for your creative projects. And here I wanted to test out the speech. Can Seedance 2 hold up when it comes to that? Let's go ahead and take a look at what we got back.
Something here remembers me. Show yourself.
So I think this is really quite impressive. It straight up feels like a scene from a film, and that's what I find really amazing about Seedance 2. It's able to build out these worlds and scenes that kind of really draw you into them. This is a really fundamental step forward for AI video generation, and I really do feel that. The lip syncing looks good. The acting feels kind of dramatic and believable. There's a nice sense of tone there. Only issue we've got here is that as I'm walking forward, this kind of swamp zombie thing grabs my ankle and I just keep walking forward, completely unfazed. Trust me, if that happened, I would be freaking out. So there is that slight kind of logical disconnect where you'd expect Seedance to maybe understand there should be that type of reaction, or maybe to just not include that shot. But still, I think this is really, really impressive. It's also a great level of character consistency here as well, considering all that I've given Seedance 2 is that one image reference of me as a bearded wizard. This is really cool. And I also wanted to take at something a little bit more grounded, again, examining how Seedance 2 handles dialogue generation. So we're using this image here, which is like a kind of gangster scene where there's this confrontation happening. And again, a fairly lengthy prompt, which is just describing the scene. Classic kind of scene you'd imagine to see within a gangster film. So let's take a look at what we got back from this.
I'm a con man, I'm not a thief. You stole from me. I conned you. It's not the same thing. You knew the score. You took a chance and you lost. Don't make me regret not killing you when I had the chance.
So a lot of good and bad in this generation. So a good example to kind of examine. Character consistency is a little bit iffy in that wide shot. Doesn't really look like me. The dialogue is pretty good. One of the issues is that kind of looks like Tom Hardy who's having an argument with me, right? So one of the potential problems here with Seedance 2 is that it is actually including known actors and IP in certain generations, despite all of the kind of moderation and red tape built into it. So it doesn't want you to be able to use IP or known actors or entertainers, but it can put them in your generations without you asking it to. And this is problematic and impressive at the same time, I guess. A couple of the cutaways don't really make an awful lot of sense. But then that shot of the Rolex, which feels a bit like weird, awkward product placement, is quite impressive in its own right, because that does look like a real Rolex, right? Like the detail there is pretty cool. Really glad I generated this because I feel like it nicely encompasses a lot of the good and bad sides of Seedance 2. And I think that nicely brings us on to some of the issues with Seedance 2, because as impressive as it is not without its problems. The first is that cap of resolution at 720p. I think that's pretty restrictive, especially when it comes to professional use cases, and even more so the general look of compression that you're going to get with your Seedance 2 generations. They look great on social media, but if you're going to throw them up on a big screen, you're probably going to have some issues there. Like I said earlier, even if you run this through an upscaler, you're still going to have that compression apparent. It's not just going to magically fix that. It's kind of baked into your generation. So hopefully in the future, ByteDance find a way to resolve this. And the next issue, this kind of feeling of censorship or red tape. those cease and desist letters from the Hollywood studios do seem to have done some damage here. Things are definitely going to be restrictive, especially if you're trying to move close to existing IP. I guess so, if you're using AI tools to create something that actually feels fresh and original, I'd like to hope that you wouldn't run into these problems anywhere near as much. So on the plus side, it's kind of motivation to create your own characters, your own ideas, your own stories using the tools. You should be safer that way. Text rendering also seems to be an issue. I have got some generations back where the text looks pretty funky. And in contrast here, Kling 3 actually does a really great job of preserving really kind of small, fine text details. Really impressive for that video model. Not so much when it comes to Seedance 2 in that particular area. And my personal approach that I'm going to experiment a lot with going forward is to actually combine Seedance 2 with Kling 3. Because there are certain things that Kling does better. There are certain things that Seedance does better. And this is actually the route that I went down for the intro. There are some cheeky Kling 3 generations thrown in there where I struggled to get the results I wanted from Seedance 2, or I was hitting certain weird restrictions. But with that all being said, guys, I really do hope you've enjoyed today's video. I think we've done a pretty thorough breakdown and exploration of Seedance 2. Obviously, it's still pretty fresh, so there's a lot more to explore here. So that being said, if you do want to support me, make sure to like this video. If you're new, consider subscribing, and of course, ring that bell notification icon so you never miss any future content or any future uploads where we're exploring Seedance 2 in more detail. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you'd like to go ahead and check out some more of my content, you can do so by clicking on the video on screen right now. Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next one.